Good evening, everybody. Boy, I hope y'all are doing good. Kind of hot out here tonight. Kind of warmed up a little bit. We got full moon going on out there, and thought I'd take a little time and talk fishing with you. Kind of go over my tournament over at Bull Shoals this last weekend in the Anviljaw Bass Club Championship. I felt like I had a great event over there this last weekend. Those guys most of these guys are from that Little Rock area, Hot Springs, that part of the state. And I'm just going to tell you, they're hammers. They catch them everywhere they go. They posted some great weights over the weekend. I ended up finishing ninth in the tournament and won a decent little amount of money. Worked out really great, and to end up ninth, in my opinion, with this group of guys, I'm 100% satisfied. It makes my day just to be able to kind of hang in there with this group, and had a great tournament over there. I ended up with a little over 20 pounds for 2 days. I had 12 something the first day, and then the second day I kind of stumbled around a little bit and caught 7.5 pounds, and was just extremely happy to catch that. But had a few opportunities the second day. I broke off a good fish, but when it all fell out at the end of the day, if I'd have caught every bass I felt like I might have lost or not had, the next weight above me was I might have moved up one spot at the best. No way I would have moved on up to fifth or sixth. Those guys just posted a lot better weights than I did. So super happy with the finish. No lost fish cost me. Really, for the most part, made good decisions the whole tournament. And it all revolved around two baits for the most part. And I had pre-fished quite a few days this week. And when I first got there, I got put in, realized that real quick that, Bull Shoals, we're fishing out down by the dam. It is not as clear as it's been in the past. The water seemed to have either kind of an algae looking bloom, or the lake's been falling really fast from being high all summer, and they've been bringing it down just steady, and it was creating a lot of silt in the water. So all the silt that had built up on the bank, each day it was kind of breaking loose, and I think that had a lot to do with it. So really 3 or 4 feet visibility at the best. I've never seen it quite that kind of stained or green looking on that end of Bull Shoals ever in my life. Normally it's just ultra clear. And so that kind of helped with my style of fishing, along with the lake was still up about 1.5 feet, maybe even close to 2 feet. It's still up in some bushes. There's a lot of dead bushes all around the lake when it's this high. So there was a lot of cover in the shallow water. And so when I got put in on Wednesdays, about straight up noon when I got there, I looked at my surface temp, and we'd had some cool nights. I thought maybe surface temp 80 degrees. And I was like, oh no, these fish are going to still be in a kind of a summer thing, but I'm going to start looking for them. So I headed back in some creeks, and right quick, right off the bat, I caught a really nice largemouth on a rock crawler. Now, I really love the Spro rock crawler. I enjoy throwing wiggle wart, but this is the rock crawler 55. I like the mid 55 as well, but this tournament I spent most of the time throwing the rock crawler 55 in this color, which I think is a phantom crawl or something like that. It's one of my favorite ones. Everybody loves this bait, but I love it too. Right quick, I went, uh-oh, I can do this. The fish was in about 6-8 feet of water. On some rock, shelf rock. I target shelf rock on Bull Shoals most of the time. So I thought, hey, they're going to bite that a little bit. I'll be okay. But I went on down, and I come up on a boat dock, and this time of year, I really target boat docks a lot on all our Ozark lakes, and caught a really nice smallmouth on a jig, and I thought, well, this is going to be okay. But I spent the rest of that afternoon messing with boat docks, and nothing. Never had another bite. But in between some boat docks on a little strip of shelf rock, I caught another really good largemouth on this rock crawler in about 3 feet of water. And at that point, I was like, I I think I know what to do. And the rest of the day, I ended up catching 4 really quality fish that afternoon, all on the rock crawler. So at that point, I knew that I could fall on this bait a little bit. The next 2 days I spent fishing deep, fishing some other stuff. I still goofed around and caught a few quality fish on the rock crawler and a couple on a spinner bait, but really couldn't get anything dialed in on that. So kind of spent the rest of the time looking for jig fish and rock crawler fish. And late in the second day, I started fishing one of my old favorite baits. I'd been fishing a spider jig, like a living rubber jig that I normally skip docks with, and a black hair jig, a quite a bit bigger jig. And I thought, man, I'm missing something here. And I thought back to some of my old days on 10 Killer, and me and my brother used to do really well on a 5/16 ounce muddler bucktail jig with a little critter crawl on it. So it's a really compact, small jig with a small crawdad on it. And I put one of those on my spinning rod and went to catching them. Really kind of catch them on a little bit of everything. Bluff slides, those shelf banks, really about anywhere. If I'd settle down with this jig, I'd start catching fish. And I began to catch a lot of small fish, lots of smallmouth, but a keeper every little bit. And I was like, I was onto something right there. That was late, the second day of pre-fish, that I kind of put that together in the evening. And this bait ended up being a player in the tournament for me. You know, it's kind of odd, but in the fall, this has always been a player for me when it's tough and you just need to kind of go down rock or bluffy banks. That little small bucktail jig, it's just tiny kind of compared to what we normally throw. So the last day of pre-fish, I really just spent more time looking for the kind of places I thought I might want to fish, and went and looked at some water that I knew I was going to fish, and spent some time in one creek arm there that I've always had good success in. I thought, I'm just going to go look at the water, see if it kind of aligns with what I've seen out pre-fishing, and made my plan for Saturday. So what I was looking for was on these highland reservoirs, really about anywhere in the country. If you're on a highland top reservoir, I look for what I call shelf rock. And this rock is like, it's like a shelf of rock and it drops, and it's a shelf of rock and it drops, and then it might have dirt around it. Or you find a seam of this shelf rock that maybe drops a foot or foot and a half, that's just kind of cut into the edge of the bank. And it makes like the bank maybe coming down to 45, and then all of a sudden it's got a steep edge, and then it goes back to that 45. So you're looking for these shelves and these rocks that are kind of got a real nice hard edge. So you've got a rock, hard edge, and then back to the bottom, or even kind of undercut. These bass going into this early fall into winter, they love to get up on this shallow rock, and they can sit in the shade of this rock. As the sun's getting different, lower in the horizon, now any kind of shelf will create a shady spot those bass can set in. And they'll set in it anywhere from 0 water to really quite deep. They want to be in that edge, or finding pieces of those table-shaped rocks, where it's just a hunk of rock, but it's got really good edges on it, and it's just sitting there in the water, real shallow on those edges. So those fish will position around that rock in that shade as that sun goes across they may be on this side, but as the sun moves around, they position on the other side, and it's key water. So I spend my time looking for that kind of water on these Ozark lakes to throw the rock crawler on and to throw the jig on. What you want to do is you want to get that rock crawler right in that edge and bring it through that shadow spot. Same way with that jig. Just get it right in there, right? Really fish it slow along the bottom, and that's how you're going to catch these fish. So that's one reason I really prefer the hair jig. The hair jig will stay very tight to the bottom. It doesn't have a lot of resistance against the hair or the crawfish, and I'm going to show you a couple things about that here in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to get into the first tournament day. Went to my first area, picked up my rock crawler, went up through there, caught a couple, came back, made a pass, didn't catch any. Went back up through there again and caught another one, and then picked up my jig. And let's see, I may have caught 4 on the crankbait. I'm trying to remember here. Anyway, I had 4 good fish, turned around, picked up my jig, backed off a little bit, caught my 5th fish, another really great keeper, 15-inch fish on the jig amongst a lot of shorts. There was a lot of fish in this one little area. It was probably 80 yards long of a kind of a clay bank with some shelfie rock in it, some deep water out front, and finished my limit right there by 8 o'clock first thing that morning, and was off to a great start. And so spent the next few hours throwing a crankbait on some other places, didn't catch anything. Spent the rest of the day just running water. And once the sun got up, it really kind of affected the day. Caught a few more keepers along the way, but nothing that helped me until late in the afternoon. I caught a really nice bass on a spinnerbait, just burning it on a really shallow where the wind was blowing, just a mouse-colored spinnerbait, burning it across a windy point up amongst some buckbrush and some shallow rock like I'm talking about. And I culled the fish. I didn't gain a whole lot, but I did gain some weight with that fish. And that kind of wrapped up my day. Ended up with 12 pounds and something. Just really good day. Didn't lose any fish. It all went swell. The second day, I went back to my primary area, went straight there, went up through there with my crankbait 2 times and never got a bite. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. And, but I thought I'm gonna make one more pass up through there with my jig. And I kind of backed off a little bit. It was still early in the morning. I probably should have been running around running bank or something else, but I've just learned not to spin out too fast. Picked up my little bucktail jig and went up through there, and I caught 3 keepers on my jig up through there with about another half a dozen short bass in the mix of that. So I was all of a sudden getting bites again. They was really holding tight to the bottom and just going slow with that jig. Again, I caught those 3 on that pass. I thought I'm gonna go up there one more time with my crankbait. I got right up against the bank, paralleling it, and went up there, got right about to the end, hooked a really good bass. I mean, like, this was a really, really good fish. And that dude run me up underneath some of that shelf rock. I could feel it just oozing up into that rock, and I only had 10-pound line on there. And I was trying to kind of pull him back. And when he slid through those rocks, he just cut my line off. But I felt like it was probably a really solid 2.5, 3-pound fish probably. That's what I'd been catching there. And, at that point I was like, oh no. So that kind of made the end of that. So spent the rest of the day just grinding. I mean, fishing, caught a lot of short fish on the jig, but just couldn't get another keeper. Finally I had some fish way up in the Theodosia Arm in the river. I thought they were just Kentucky's, but I thought you need to just finish your limit. And I ran all the way up there, pulled up on my first bank, caught a keeper right quick, then proceeded to catch like 20 short bass. I only had about an hour and a half to spend up there, and I was like, oh no. Here I am, still got 4. Hit a couple jig spots that I thought I'd catch one and nothing. But I just kept fishing. I had 20 minutes left. I thought, I'm going to go back to that place I started. And I'm going to go up through there with my crankbait, my jig. I might have enough time. So I pulled up there with my jig first, set out off up, fished all the way up through there, never had a bite. And I had, 15 minutes maybe, if that. Thought, just pick up your crankbait, buzz up through there, right against the bank. And I took off up there. I went all the way through there, but I went about another 30 or 40 feet past where I'd been fishing, where the bank flattened out. And I got up there, and I had like 6 minutes to fish, and I needed to go on my very last cast, right up there beside just a rock about yay big. I could see it down in the water. I brought that rock crawler beside that rock, and I caught about a 15 or 16-inch largemouth. Hustled around, got that thing in the boat, got it in the live well, and I had to go. That was the end of the tournament. That fish made a big difference. That, if it hadn't been for that one, I wouldn't have won a dime. It just goes to prove to you, stick with it all day. It was one of those grinder type tournaments. You just got to stay with it, stay with it, stay with it, and keep grinding. Because sometimes it's that last cast that makes it all happen. So that's how it all played out. Man, it was a great tournament. But I'm going to show you a couple things about this jig real quick. I know this is getting to be a long video, but originally this is just what I call a muddler jig that I make through Arkansas Custom Tackle. And this is not a commercial. This is a jig I throw a lot, so I want to share about it. So this is what that jig looks like in the package. And so the tail's kind of chopped off a little bit. And this jig fishes great, just like this. But I'm going to show you why I like doing this jig this time of year. And what you don't want is you don't want all this puffy skirt and all that for me. I want this, the bucktail jig will stay, it will sink good. It will stay right on the bottom good. And you want to get rid of some of this hair on there. So I take my old scissors and I just start, I'm going to trim this thing down. I want to get rid of some of that. It's kind of like a spinnerbait skirt. There are times you don't need all that bulk. So I'm just going to keep. So now look at it. See how I've kind of bunched it all in there a little bit and narrowed it down. You know, this one's been chewed up something fierce, so a lot of that hair's already gone, but I like to narrow that down. I don't want a ton of hair on there, or even when I come to a living rubber skirt. I want to thin it down. The other thing I like to do this time of year is, again, I'm wanting this bait to be sleek. I want it to stay on the bottom. I want it to be a very small profile. I take my critter crawl. I like to get these little legs off of there. I don't want anything that's going to make my hair protrude out. So I want it to be straight like that. I'm going to cut a couple of knobs off of there, something like that. And the other thing I'm not going to do is, this time of year, I'm just going to thread that thing up on there just enough to get on the collar. So I don't want to push it up there and push all that hair out like that. I want to keep that trailer back a little bit. I want this thing to be fluid and thin profiled. So I want this to narrow down. I don't want it to create a lot of bulk. And that's what I want it to look like right there. I don't want these legs in the middle of the hair. I just want it to look just like a little morsel of a little old crawdad crawling along the bottom. And I'm telling you, there are times in this late September when the fishing gets a little iffy, and you know what I'm talking about. You can take a little 5/16 one of these in a green or a black, olive color with a little critter crawl on there, and you can make hay. I caught a ton of bass on this bait over the weekend, and it made a difference in the tournament. 4 of the 5 I weighed the first day or second day came on this little jig. And then the first day, the rock crawler did produce the better quality, but the second day they just didn't want as good. And I was able to back it up with this. So try that out, really light. I was throwing it on a 6-foot spinning rod, it had 10-pound braid with a 10-pound fluoro leader on there. And just fishing it really slow along the bottom. Not big lifts, just nice short little hops. And you just want to feel it along, because what you want to do is you want to find one of them shelves. And if you get that shelf, you don't want your jig to hop out over it like this. You want to just creep it, and you want it to fall right on his head. He's sitting right there, and you want it just to fall right on him where he's sitting in the edge of that shelf. So keeping this on the bottom and creeping it along, little short hops, an inch at a time, we'll put a ton of bass in the boat for you. So I was fishing the crankbait on 10-pound monofilament line on just a standard 7-foot crankbait rod, Corrado reel like I use all the time, and just digging it in the bottom slow and easy. Even though that water was hot, they really wanted that bait finessing along, getting in those cracks, just kind of digging them out of there. So I do know a lot of bass are being caught on top waters and things like that, but I just found something that's kind of my strength, ran with it, and I felt like it paid off just fine. So I hope you're getting out and fishing, man. This is the time of year. I love these cool mornings. What a fantastic week I had over. It's cool in the morning, get kind of hot in the day, but by the time you think, this is miserable, the sun starts getting low and starts cooling off, breeze starts blowing. So get out, do you some fishing, enjoy what the world has to offer. It's yours for the taking. So till next time, I hope that helps you catch some fish. I can't thank all of you enough for watching and rooting me on and paying attention. It makes my day. We'll see y'all later.